Boom. You are live on the
Boom.
TruMon Show, episode 462 and counting with the great Arthur Christian from Australia. Directly from Australia. We have like 14 hours difference. That's fucked up shit. He's in Australia, I'm in Canada, and we talk on the internet. Like every time it blows my mind, that
and,
stuff.
and daylight saving has now come in, so it's changed for an hour for us. But mate, it's just anyway. I don't want to talk about all this.
Yeah.
Just move on.
Tonight we're going to focus, Arthur, on the remedy solution, okay, of our super consciousness connection series. And I think it's a great way also to maybe wrap it up with the last episode on that series, which is about solution. To
Yeah.
me, it's very clear the solution. And if we look outside in nature, we observe nature, we're going to see the solution, the sun, the light.
Yeah.
There's no plant that will grow without light. So we
Oh,
need to grow. We need to grow out of our baby state. You know, I think you're the one who told me all the time, wake the baby. Well, you need light to grow. So I think the solution is really that the maximum that of us are on the island shine light so the others picks up the vibe and monkey see monkey do. At one point, if we're all shining the light of our truth. Now I can tell you
mm.
what's the truth for you, for Arthur, for, but I know I'm shining my light, and my light is true. So maybe some people will pick up that light and say, hey, I can shine too. And then we all shine like the sun shine. Like it, to me, it's so simple.
Living the
So
dream.
simple.
We have to be
Living the
living the
dream.
dream,
Yeah, living the dream.
because the real sun that's shining is living the dream.
Yeah,
It's alive. It
it's
lives.
alive. It doesn't stop
Yeah.
shining. So
So
why
it's like,
do we go on pause and like at one point
well,
we know we're
because
young, we have all this energy, we shine, and then we get to adulthood and then we go in dormancy until we wake up at
well,
40, 50. I got to do something with my life. But why do we not all shine from the start, from
so
and never stop
well, you
shining?
can't when you do. You can't when you're in fiction.
I know
It's
that's
like,
the
when
thing.
we go back to Ulysses and the island with the
But that's my
sirens.
solution. Shine your
Yeah,
light.
yeah. No, I truly sense your intentions, mate. I get that. The difficulty that I have found with my life and every one of my wife, we've all been challenged by this, having been brought up in the system because we practice 24/7 in fiction. So, going back to Ulysses and the island, another kind of analogy we can use to help explain this dilemma is that we call it the movie. Now, a movie is made up of scripts, right?
Yeah.
So you have to storyboard it, and then you got to set up the stage. You got to get the actors, and then you got to have the film camera and the director and the producer. Everything has to happen to make the movie. The movie's made, and then it goes into the theaters, and then the audience arrives in the theaters to watch the movie. Now, at all time, we are involved in the movie. We are not involved in the direct experience with the lives of the men and women who are the actors, the directors, and producers of the movie. We're not there the whole time. Now, that's what a script does to us when we're in a script. So we get so lost in the movie that we are imagining we're in the real life. So when we go to a bookshop, we buy a book, or if we continue with the island analogy, the island has a supermarket. It's where the occultists provide everything in on the store, on the shelves. And so you're walking down through the island with your cart and you go, oh, that's
Yeah.
a really nice box of consciousness. I think I'll buy that one, put it in the trolley. And off we go. Oh, there's another one, interesting product. Oh, that's called freedom. I'll grab that one and drop that into my trolley cart and carry on. And so we spend a lot of times in our lives accessing scripts. Now, we then read the book. But when we're reading the book, we're actually in the movie of the scripts. We're actually not there in the real life. We're actually not doing it. We're not living it. We're in the imagining. And through the imagining, through the fantasy, and with it comes delusion and illusion. So when we talk about Ulysses in the Odyssey and you're on the mast and you're tired, you're focused on your discipline, and that it's about stepping away from the movie, stepping away from the scripts, because all the emotions are scripts. Everything from fear, doubt, uncertainty, all these, there's so many of them, they are fiction. And we get caught up performing, mimicking, fantasizing the scripture of that movie. And we think this is part, but in our case, we get so confused. We think it's actually part of our real life as we experience these emotions coming up, these feelings. But we don't realize it's actually just a movie. It's like a video file, like our life has like a shelf of video files, the old VHS videos. Oh, okay, I've got to grab that one off the shelf, take it and plug it into my film projector of my brain so I can play out this video through fantasy. And we call that anger. And then the next time we might drop that one out and bring it in and bring it at another one called No One Loves Me and No One Cares About Me, is not in it for me. Or we have another one, yeah, I'm conscious. We pull out another one, put another one in, we think, oh, now I'm conscious, because we happen to read books and we're so in the movie of these things, we have never, ever gone to the real one and be it and live it, because you got to live it. So when you say, for me, this is just me, when you say shining that light, you're living the life of the dream, which is nature, living on the land, living with real living things, because then you're in a direct experience with everything of that dream. You're not in the movie where everything is just in fiction. It's such a big difference. So the island and the barrenness of the island of all the sirens is fiction. It's a movie of many movies, a scripts of many scripts to keep us enchanted, mesmerized, discombobulated. We get so interested in fiction that we're so used to living in the cities, which are movies. We're actually waking up in suburbs in a movie, but we're actually not in with the real people, because we're playing through the constructs and concepts of all the definitions that explain, like if you look at a career, the words that we use that describes the life that we live in the movie is what's being played out with everyone else who's acting in that movie that we're caught up in. I'm a lawyer, I'm a banker, I'm an accountant, I'm a garbage worker, I collect garbage bins, or, I work in the shop, I'm this and I'm that and this and that and, whatever. But they're all fiction. They're not actually our real life. We're not shining. We're not living our real life, because they're just things we have picked up from the supermarket on the island as babies. Mum holding us, dad holding us, and then eventually we're in trolleys and strollers and, whatever. But we're just sponges absorbing all this fictional stuff. And we're listening to the conversations of fiction that of these alphabet languages, where we are removed from life. It's like I said to you, it's like the child we're sitting on the lap of our parents, and mum and dad are reading the book of Superman. Could be any character, doesn't matter. You can come up with thousands of them. And we're watching the pictures as mum and dad are reading the scripts of this movie. And so we are in the imagining, unfolding the fantasy of the movie. And it becomes so big after mum and dad might have read us 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times sitting on their lap, that we will turn the home into the stage. We'll move furniture around. We'll wear ourselves and put a Superman costume on, and we'll start performing in the movie of Superman.
Yeah.
And then we'll have other characters playing out. And along the way, in the script, the boy comes across kryptonite, and suddenly it's dead. But it's all an act. And in these movies, they become so powerful. We can call it corona, call it vaccinations. We can call it all kinds of placebo effects. because we truly have accepted the transformation of our bodies to meet the fiction and play out the effects of the fiction to the body and see our bodies suffer and deteriorate. Now, the distortion of vaccination, for example, you don't get that information coming straight from a tree or a bird or an animal creature. There's nowhere in nature, anywhere in life where this light shines, you refer to, where you can learn the scripts of vaccination or anything to do with vaccination. No matter how far wide you take it, into the scripts where people go to be tested and go to medical places, and and it just it just played out in the media and played out through the mouths of people in politics and even in the courtrooms now when people argue and fighting over whatever about vaccination. But it's just one example where we are creating the outcomes of our experience because we're so in the movie of it and we've accepted it so much and we've practiced thinking it and feeling it. Now, the word vaccination has been around for a long, long time for all of us. So we've been exposed to that imprint over, well, in my case, more than 60 years. So that's a lot of 24/7 recalling, practicing. And if you're not conscious of the movie, you won't realize that we are actually acting in the movie amongst everyone else and everything being fake because it ain't real. But the fakeness can destroy reality, our real lives, at the same time. You follow this? Because as we do harm, we're only harming life itself. So while the kid is playing as Superman, the kid doesn't realize that the costume caused a lot of harm to life to create it. The colors, the inks, the dyes, the materials, the machines involved to manufacture and process, the books that was read to the child, that what's involved to be able to produce that book, and the tens of thousands of men and women out there that have had to become the blue collars and white collars and laborers and slaves to have provide what is required to deliver a publishing company's ability to produce comic books. It's massive involvement. Involves a lot of people in that movie, even though it's all fiction. Complete fiction. So even when you go to court, it's a movie you're going into. You're coming from a movie in the movie. So when you're on the island, living on the island, you're in a movie. You're not in the real life because what you're thinking and feeling is not your real life. They're not your dreams. They ain't real at all. So going back to the beginning of this analogy, when you're in the cinema watching a movie, you're not in any direct sensory experience with anything that's real. Where we are being stimulated by what is evoking us to give our life energy to the scripts of the movie. That is what causes us to attract the fiction into us. We have to be willing to invite it in. That through the stimulation of accepting it so it can come into us. We become the movie. We become the fiction. And now we are walking, talking, and living, breathing fiction amongst fiction of other men and women because they were all defined. Everything was explained in scripts through alphabets. And when you watch these videos we're making together, it's all through that fiction. So you've got to be able to sense the intention of a man like this man. As someone wrote yesterday on another video saying, well, he was saying, if I got this wrong, hello, good heart, hello, good heart, hello, good heart, are you there? In response to what I was talking about, hello, God, or whatever I was in the previous videos. I don't know whether that's a joke or whether he's shit-stirring or whether he's trying to create a manipulation. I don't know. If you've been watching these videos, I've already covered that ground and said that we are in fiction. You cannot rely on fiction to tell you the truth. So when I talk in fiction to communicate these insights that I share, you've got to step away from the fiction. You've got to get outside of the island So you can sense the virtues of the good heart, which is a word. Like the virtue of the good heart is a fiction. The good heart is a fiction. Everything coming out of mouth as alphabets are fiction. Everything we're describing are fiction. Where these are all in movie scripts, but you can directly sense empathy. You can directly sense compassion, respect, kindness, etc. Because it has substance. You can engage with it. So because we talk in the scripts of what makes movies for our lives, we're all fake that way, doesn't mean that we can't still sense the truth. That, like, you can sense compassion. You don't need to listen to me to tell you that you can't experience compassion or empathy, because that comes from what we call the good heart.
You mean I don't need a word to define
Yeah,
compassion? I
we
can
don't need
live it
any.
without a word.
Exactly. We don't
That's
need to
where
be
you want to
taught
go with
anything
it. Okay.
because it's already here. That
Same
that's
like
virtue.
love. You don't need
When
the
you
word
when you
love
go
to
into
experience love,
when you
right?
go into nature, you don't learn words from nature. You don't learn one, two, three, A, B, C from nature. You're not going to experience, nature's not going to teach you time and space, constructs and concepts. It's not going to teach you past and future and that sort of stuff, because everything is happening in the here and now. We only exist in the here and now. Only the here and now exists. Only the here and now exists. But we have been so bamboozled by the movies we've got caught up in through science, because that's a movie, and the quantum physics, which is another movie. And we come up with all this because we've practiced 24/7 talking in the scripts of movies called astrology, numerology, and astro this and astro that. And you cannot directly experience truth or live the truth, and there's no light shining there amongst the scripts of the movie that we're involved in. Just as you're in a cinema watching a movie and you're not involved with anything there that's real in that way, because you're in the fantasy, you're in the imagining of it all. And that is the island and life on the island, because that's where we are all trapped on the island of pure fantasy, illusion, and delusion, performing scripts in the movie that we're role playing, just like a kid is role playing Superman in the home. And the mum comes out and says, "Listen, child, we've got to go back to bed now. You're going to need to, it's bedtime now." "Oh, mummy, I don't want to go to bed." "Time to go to bed, son." "No, I don't want to go." "So you're off to bed." Drag him out of the movie. Back to bed. You need to rest now. Real life needs to rest now. Light's got to shine. You got to eat. Ideally, drag the child back outside to nature. Let the child observe and experience everything directly. So, in these videos, we talked about the doubt, the uncertainty, the distrust, which is always behind the movie that we are caught up in, because that's what's keeping us disconnected from the light that shines in, that we call nature, earth, and be in the direct sensory experience of it. So the remedy is life. It is being life, not thinking and talking about it, because that doesn't do anything. You and I can talk about all these things for another 50 years and nothing will change. What changes in the here and now is we are living in the life. We actually go outside of the scripts, leave the island, be Ulysses on the mast, and stay focused on creating life, experiencing sensorama, unique to each of us, smelling life, hearing life, touching life, feeling life, eating life, breathing life.
And 300 years ago, I don't think they were so concerned about shining light. Like they
No,
weren't talking about, hey, shine your light, bro. Like,
because they already
come
were.
on.
They already
We
were
didn't
that.
need it. They weren't
No,
that there. We are in desperate times. That's why I'm talking about shining light. Is we're all entertained by a mass distraction,
exactly.
destruction.
Everything that's gone, everything and everything that's happened that's gone wrong is a movie, are movies, are scripts, and us performing them. That's all that's happened. That's what makes us murderers. That's what makes us liars. That's what makes us deceivers. That's what makes us manipulators. That's what makes us use and abuse, rape, pillage, and plunder. That's what creates chaos and opposition, conflict. It's what creates distraction. It's what creates everything that's gone absolutely wrong is where we have stepped out of life and gone into the fantasy. And that's how man started it. And it doesn't matter whether others followed that blueprint. And now we call it the system, and everything of the system being these movies. It comes from this. If we want to change your life, you have to change and return to life itself. Get your feet on the land. Start creating food forests, start creating gardens, start creating orchards, start looking after, start attracting animals and all kinds of creatures back in, start to learn to live with all these things again, and learning how to commune through your senses, not through this talking or any book you bought or anything. You in the here and now being the experience of life itself. And that is what the great man was on about. It was only about this, and that's any great man coming and going. I don't call myself a great man because I'm still too fucked up in many other ways, but it doesn't matter. The intention is what matters, and the sincerity and the purity of intention is what matters. It's only life. Everything that's stuffing us up right now is because we're not fully back to life. The doubt in that, look, it's like the sun that shines. You imagine the sun shining over the land. There's no tree stopping the sun. There's no clouds blocking the sun, nothing. It's just sun shining. But suddenly you see pockets of darkness appearing from the sun. So you can see a spot of light down on the ground. Next to there's a pocket of no sunlight. And then another sunlight and then none. And you can see it. And all these black spots is the doubt, the uncertainty, the confusion, the distrust of not knowing who we really are, remembering who we really are. So we are radiating distortion, which goes back to the beginning of these videos we made of this series. We're in the distortion. So I've used a few different analogies to arrive at this thing, but the remedy is to work with the good heart and all its virtues. Not the scripts that I'm talking about, but for you to work with nature, because as you work with nature, with life itself, it naturally evokes in compassion, empathy, love, respect. You'll see we're observing of something that transitions from a caterpillar to a butterfly, and then to see that butterfly pass away. When you're really observing, there is no death in the passing away because its progeny and whatever else its life is still carrying on in the dream. But we're too shut down to see it, to notice it, to sense what's going on. We're just left with what people put in our heads and explain to us about what we're seeing about life and what we're sensing about life. And that's the greatest problem we've got. We've got too much of ABC 1, 2, 3 in our heads right now. And we're too much in the movie to be able to just...
I heard
And I'm not talking about meditation.
Hold on. I heard something today, and maybe you're gonna like it. You take the fish out of the water, the fish dies. You take the tree out of the ground, the soil, the tree will die. Take God, the divine, from us, from within us, you will freaking die.
Exactly, which is what's happening because we've forgotten who we are.
Boom.
It's not the God is the fiction. When we talk about God and all that, it is a fiction because God is life. It's life itself. Because it's only life where everything comes out of life.
So
It's only amongst life. It's only amongst life that we've lost our way and talk about fictions. But we're amongst life still. And that's that sun where it's not fully shining anymore because it's got all these black, these black things coming out of the sun, which you can call it our soul. But it's fantasy, illusion, delusion, fiction, all the distortions. We're causing everything. And because, another one to explain, it's like, and I've mentioned this before in articles over the Love for Life work. You can imagine we're in, as an analogy, we're in 35 BC, or let's say 100 BC. It doesn't matter. We're just making it up. And there's a father with his son sitting on his lap, and he's got this thing called the Bible, and he's reading the prophecies to the child again and again over time, right? And he talks about the end times as he's doing this to the child. Now that child grows up, has a child sitting on his lap, and he's recalling the same script and the end times to come of the prophecy. Now, the only thing that's happening from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, to arrive at the end times of the here and now, where in the here and now they're reading the scripts, in the here and now we're passing on the scripts of the end times, and we can go through hundreds of generations to arrive at the end time and experience the outcome of the end time. And the only one who was to the experience was man. It was man to the child who's a man, to the child, sorry, to the man, to the grandfather, great grandfather, and then going right forward through all the descendants. We are the only first party to the experience. It's self-fulfilling because we are the only ones present to the images of the scripts of the movie of the Bible. And we create it. And people think, wow, we're living in the time. It was all predetermined. You unravel the Bible, you unravel all this stuff, you'll see it is just us creating it because we're dreaming it, meaning we're feeling it. We're feeling these distortions and we're accepting what's been planned. And the occultists who don't provide full disclosure about all this can manipulate hordes of people into thinking, oh my God, this is a prophecy come true. Oh my God. And accept whatever authority that operates behind the figure of whatever it is that's the Messiah or the Savior of the end times, and not realize they're still being used and abused, raped, pillaged, and plundered the whole way through because they're not truly free. They're still in movies, in scripts, on the island of the sirens, playing out the movie that they're disconnected from because they're not part of what's real. So it's only that the man who invented the intention to deceive generations of brothers and sisters of that tribe that man was part of, and how many other tribes can be affected by that deception, without providing the full disclosure, to have a child or parents or family arrive at the destination, the outcome of the end times, and experience it, created by everyone who gave the energy to that. So that's a movie. It's a movie. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's the same with life, our life. We are all at the effect of prophecies created and encoded in the blueprints of alphabet tongues. Because the images is what we're not observing carefully to notice how we are creating. Now, money doesn't exist, doesn't it? You can never go and talk to money. But somehow we get conned into thinking, we're going to go to work. As 14, 15-year-old kids, we start going to work to make money. Or you could be a paper boy or milk bottle delivery or something. And you could be starting at 9, 10, or, delivering, what a paper boy does, newspapers. And you start making money. Now, that's a prophecy. You're promised you can make money. But money doesn't exist. Yet the kid's going out to make money. And he's building up saving. And there's a bank and he can put his money in saving and it's great. That's a prophecy coming true. But it needs a lot of actors to perform bank. It needs a lot of actors to perform commerce, to perform stock market. Because they're all scripts. They're all movies within a movie. Nothing of fiction is real. It never will be. But everyone's so caught up fulfilling the prophecies of the American dream or the Australian dream. Work for 40 years, pay off 4 houses and you can own one. Work and go and buy land and go and live on the land. They're prophecies. They're scripts. Now, if you're
Yeah.
brought up in nature, you're already doing it. You don't even need words to tell you how to live on land and have everything you want. It's not that you want. You already got everything we need. We don't run around looking for what we think we don't have, which is the greatest manipulation about what's on the island, because everyone believes they don't have freedom or they don't have certainty. They don't have power, and they default by proxy to somebody else. And that becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. You go to a judge to provide you order to the chaos. But the script of the men and women, all behind the scenes, laid all that out before you even become someone caught up in the script to go to court to try and get a result, an outcome, an end time experience to whatever you got caught up in that script. It's self-fulfilling. So your whole life in the system, from waking up, going to the kitchen to turn the tap on for the water to come out, that is self-fulfilling prophecy. The whole watering pipe systems, everything that was set up everywhere, that's all fiction. But you're taught to believe it. So now you can live in a suburban house that you're paying rates and you're paying taxes and you're paying all that. But you know you can get up, go and turn the tap on, there's water coming out. Now that's your certainty that you don't have, being experienced as a prophecy. But the fact is that water can be controlled and turned off. Those pipes can be collapsed and go off, you know. If we don't interfere with nature, we don't affect the streams, we don't affect everything of the way everything works, we're not going to live in the suffering. It's only just to finish this, it's only in the movies through the generations that we have been destroying life, forgetting life, and deteriorating the natural fabric of life itself, where everything works in the here and now properly, the way it's supposed to. We would never be without anything, and we'd be fully experiencing all the time magnificence. We'd never be living in the dark ages, because only where the prophecies play out is the dark ages, because it's playing on your down. You don't have it. That's why we go to the kitchen to turn the tap on, because underneath it is that uncertainty that we may not have it one day if we don't pay the bills or whatever.
Collectively, on a collective level, what's the solution? How do we go back to paradise altogether?
Well, it's
Like
already
what is
explained.
to do? I know we can create a glitch here and there in the matrix and bring a few people on board, but if we talk about at large the world, what is
Forget
needed?
the
Like
world,
I
mate.
mentioned the other day, is it a massive earth tragedy? Is that what we need? But even that won't wake some people up.
Well, that's the
I'm
outcome.
wondering what's the solution collectively
The
to get out
solution is
of
just is to live life and just start taking responsibility for living that life and stop being an addict to the fiction. Stop relying on the island and stop relying on being caught up inside the movies and thinking you've got some life there and that you're somehow subsisting, because everyone living in the suburbs, everyone living in skyscrapers and cities and all that stuff, they're in a movie. The electricity, the gas, everything, it's all a
but they
bloody
don't even
movie.
know. They don't even know they're in the movie. That's the worst.
You cannot save anybody who themselves can't take full responsibility. This is not a look.
So it's not about saving others.
One of the great tactics from the occultists for a long time. Now remember this: there's a tribe living in paradise, undisturbed, living a wonderful life. Now a lot of these truths are coming out now. Like people in mainstream are starting to realize the magnificence of how life was pre-invasion, before all the shit of the
Yeah,
system
yeah, yeah.
came. Right, going right back before even the first attempt at doing it. It was paradise. Everything was paradise. It was the Garden of Eden. It was that incredible, because that's what we all gravitate to. So you can't save anyone else, because what they do, they invade a tribe at a local level, and then they try to organize through how many generations it takes to pull off that tribe, what remains of that tribe, into accepting some kind of order, some kind of authority at the local level. But then they create a bigger problem that's threatening what's at a local level, to the point that they set up a state government, something bigger than what's local, so people can give their power away to something bigger to protect them. And that involves on it. But now that state is a problem because of other issues that are happening at the state level that's impacting everyone living at a local level. So now we have a federal government we need to protect everything at a state level, to protect everyone living local. Now we have an even bigger problem. We have an earthwide terrorism. We have all kinds of earthwide political and issues. So now we need a one world order. We need the United Nations. Now we need to have a one world conference of the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, and the Council on Foreign Relations, and on it goes. All this is massaging everyone living local. We're all local. We may not be on our motherlands, but we are local. And everything can be fixed local. You don't get caught up with all the bigger things going around the world, because even though it's really bad, it'll keep you distracted.
Yeah.
You've got to fix it at the local level and make that work, because that can then spread. And gradually, of those amongst us who remain, because the devastation can be pretty bad here, we can begin to change it all. But we are all responsible for accepting one world, the United Nations. We've allowed that to come into our lives. We're all complicit in supporting that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We're all complicit in supporting Donald Trump, even though we're in Australia and you're in Canada. Because the machinations involved that went from the invasion, the people behind that invasion are the same people that created state government. They're the same people that created federal government, are the same people that want to create APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Region, so we can have Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia, maybe China, I don't know, Japan, I don't know how that works. You're going to have yours. You're going to have Canada, America, and Mexico. Now, the plans for all that and the roadways and the highways being built were planned 30, 40, 50 years ago. And when Donald Trump came in the first time, you can see the beginning of the formation of the new roads and highways that connects Canada to Mexico. He's following the blueprint. Now, you can't save the world, because that's a fiction. You can't save it.
So that's why during the last 4 years we have passed into that scamdemic, that they wanted us to care for others.
Yeah, but at the cost of giving up everything here and now.
You were doing it for your neighbor, for your family. It was important to care for others.
All the while, the rug's been pulled under your feet in such a huge way that you've lost control. And I mean from the heart space, the real one, at the local level where you're living. Or you've got to get away from those city areas where it's all such intense fiction, pig pens, chook pens, and go back to the land and work with other brothers and sisters who want to work in that heart space where they want to all be that Ulysses. Now, in most cases, people are recreating communities at a local level where land, food, water, shelter has been taken care of, and the children have all been looked after, and it's the village that brings up the children. But the thing is that we have to be smart enough to realize if we're going to contract with council at the local level, we're also contracting with the state and the federal government, and with that the United Nations and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all the other bloodlines, all these families, there's many of them that form the hierarchy of the occults that rules everybody from behind the shadows. And where all the major decisions are made, and everyone else they're pulling the strings and all the marionettes, and everyone else is just going to marionette. So, I've got to save the world. I've got to save the locals. I've got to save whatever. You've got to fix your life and stop being the marionette, being pulled by the strings of belief. Because you've been pulled by the strings of belief, of faith, of religion. You've got to fix at the local level where life is, and fix life. It's life that's the remedy. You look after life, let the good heart spread, and it starts taking care of everything else. And it spreads out by itself naturally. You don't have to force it, meaning you don't have to distrust God. You don't distrust life, because that's what God is. And we are life. You don't doubt it, because that is keeping you suppressed and condensed. And And so you're at the effect of other people that you need to massage a situation that ain't working for you because you gave up that responsibility and passed it over to others who now got to come into your life, act as strangers, third party imposters, intermeddlers, interceders, interlopers who don't know you. They don't know your real life. They don't know your children's real life. They don't know their dreams. They don't know all the quirks of our characters and all that stuff. They just make a blueprint, one shoe fits all policy from the international standard. They force everyone to fit inside that box right down through all the layers, to local. You got to break away from that.
And you
And
know
you
what?
way
You know what destroys us the most? It's the self doubt.
yeah,
It's the self.
that's
They have succeeded installing that in our head so solid, Arthur, that we can't even recognize who we are. We're doubting ourselves, our
it's
potential,
true.
our
That's why I say it's the doubt, the uncertainty, it's the confusion,
yeah.
it's the distractions, it's the fear, the complacency, the apathy, denial. It also comes as arrogance, ignorance, righteousness, ridicule, abuse, manipulation, lying, non full disclosure, no big pictures, keep people in the dark so they don't know if they're not smart enough to pick up what's going on. And on it goes to emptiness, weakness, hopelessness,
Emptiness.
cowardlessness. Many people are cowards. They fall apart when the moment there's any pressure, they run because the fear of loss and the fear of death is so strong in them.
You know why we call people coward? That's a good one. I got another one for you. Because cows, compare if you take buffaloes and cows, okay? Buffaloes are a type of cow, but buffalo, when there's a storm, buffaloes will run straight into the storm, avoiding the storm passing through. But cows will run away from the storm and will be catch up by the storm eventually and eventually get wet anyway. So that's why we call people coward because they run away from the storm that we're in.
Very good.
Boom,
And
another
I
one.
love those analogies because there's no disrespect to the living animal,
No,
but to
no,
me,
it's just
for me, it's
it's nature. It's in their nature.
I've
Cowards will run away.
look, all I can do for me, this man, is I've shared enough insights into what I perceive to be the issue. I provided a sufficient, what I think are analogies, uh, uh, ways of describing it. The Ulysses metaphor with the sirens on the island. This thing with the movie, and I've mentioned many other ones through these 7 videos we've done in this series. Um, the only one that can be saved is each of us. We have to take full responsibility back. Full responsibility means that it's 100% land, 100% food, 100% water, 100% shelter, etc. And then that, when you do that with others who are committed to this 100%, we are Ulysses on the mast as we navigate out of the system without the fear of death and the fear of loss and the ridicule and abuse and intimidation and threats and all this stuff. You have to ignore it all because in the end, it is just life and taking responsibility for life. And there is no crime committed living life for life. No one is being harmed. No one's been injured. And you have, well, these are words, but every man has that speech marks around the word rights to land, food, water, shelter. Because what are we if we don't have it? You understand?
So nothing is broken. Nothing needs to be fixed. In
We have to
reality,
just we have to walk away from all those movies in our head. We've got to walk away from the sirens in our head, all the voices. We've got to step away from that island. Otherwise, we're just refugees on our own motherland. And that was the word that I was forgetting to use from 4 videos back, whatever. We become refugees on our own motherland, where we have given up the full responsibility for land, food, water, shelter.
oh, everything.
right? Meaning we don't need someone else to feed us. We don't need someone else to provide us drink. But we can work together in a small group who all live for that responsibility and make sure everyone has space, that all the good spots of that land is for everyone to enjoy. We take all the lesser bits and we transform them back to paradise as we eat, as we breathe, as we drink. And the more we take responsibility, the more pure everything starts happening, because we're not using toxic chemicals and poisons, and our intentions can transmute and transform so much stuff so quickly. So I say use the system to get out of the system. Use the island to get out of the island. Use the movie to get out of the movie cinema. So use money to build the village. Use whatever you need from the system to buy to build the village so it has all the infrastructure, so you don't need any more dependency on what's in the system. But better still, when you do it from the good heart, when no one owns anything, you can create abundance and magnificence and have it be big enough that nobody ever wants to leave, because everything is already there. They got it all, and the stimulation, everything. Now, that doesn't mean that some of us may still want to odd journey, but we don't go to hop on aeroplanes and trains and planes and machines and that. We have to give up all this eventually, sooner than later,
And
because of the consequences.
would you agree that being more real, being more of nature on the land, and having our eyes on the sun and shining and stuff will bring us even
Well,
more abundance, like more
well,
money and more stuff to do
you want to
more
wake
things?
up? Oh, you got to wake up. Oh God, I got to go to bed. Oh, I got to make money. I got to pay taxes. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
that's
if
what I'm
I don't,
saying.
I could end up going to court. I can end up having my home taken from me. You know, all this kind of consternation is so huge in people. We have to break it. Break it. You got to break it. But you cannot be a doormat, and you must be strong enough to be able to not be intimidated, where the fear of loss and the fear of death is before you, because they play on this. They play on you with this stuff. They will manipulate you. You have look, if ever, and it happens again, and someone wanted to kidnap this vessel, eventually they're going to bring me before someone in the court system, because they have to put you through the courts unless they just
In
murder
the
you.
movie, that's it. They got to put
Yeah,
you through the movie.
exactly. So, you just say to them, what have I done to you? If I caused you any grievance, I mentioned this in the other video. Have we done something to injure your children? Have we taken something away that's affected your true freedom? What brings you into my private life? Do you want me to give up everything we're responsible for? Do you want us to be strong and healthy? Or do you want us to be weak and be cockroaches and useless food eaters, what you're going to call goy and scum? You want us to be that? Do you want my children to be looking over the fence of what you got? Do you want my children to break into your domain and steal? If you want us to take responsibility so we're not a threat to you and your private life, then we are fully responsible for what I have on the land I live on, in that village, in that community. And I take care of that. And the buck stops with us. If anything steps out of line of that, we step in. Or I step in if we're, whoever is going to take that responsibility on amongst us, to make sure we don't cross that line back into the harm and bring the island back amongst us. Bring the
Now,
movie back
just to
amongst us.
sum it up to what you said, there's someone in the chat said that Sarah, greeting Sarah, by the way. Do you think that the elite would attack the off-grid communities? Now, let me just
They
before
already,
you start, let me talk before you
they
start.
already are.
What I think, okay, what she's saying is, and it goes back to what you just said, that we have to use the system to get out the system, the island to get out the island, the money to build lands and communities and stuff. So if you buy a land,
Hang on.
legit,
Whoa. You stop there. We
okay,
do that, but we don't use their fear. We don't
okay,
use their doubt. We don't use their uncertainty. We don't get ourselves disorganized and confused. We use our power
That's it.
If they want to come and kill you, you're better off being a
Oh,
man on the land alive, and they kill you. They're living in the fear, which is far worse. It's far worse. It's far, far, far worse, because that's where everyone's trapped, because you don't know who you are. When you know who you are, there is no death. You don't die. That doesn't mean that we're lemmings going to jump off the cliff and all kill ourselves. It's not about any of that. When you know who you are and the dreams that you hold, we hold, it's empowered when we don't bring any black spots, like the sun that's shining with no black spots in it. We don't bring any of the doubt and the confusion, the distrust, and all this other stuff into the dream of kingdom, that I call a kingdom without the G in it, and live from that purity. Now, that means we are free. We're truly free, because we're not caught up in the fear. We're not caught up in the confusion. We're not caught up with all these chit-chats in our head. So we now are so free in the peace and calm, we can anticipate and counter anything at any time. You see, the thing is, these people are reliant on this fear porn, etc., to get away with what they're doing. They can't be seen to be killing everybody, because in the end they kill themselves too. They're not that stupid, these people. They're actually much smarter than you realize, because they've got the knowledge of Tavistock going right back, all held in their Tavistock institutes, all this ancient practices they've been doing from the occult all this time. They know it. They know it when they're trying to force all a man to their knees by polluting the oceans and poisoning the skies and the mountains and wrecking everything, to get everyone to the point to be on their knees. Please, we've got to do something about it. We've got to fix it, because we're always asking someone else to fix it. And the one world remedy to everyone living local, everywhere that's set on their knees, begging and hoping for something to change, will be someone like, it'll be what they call the Antichrist. It probably will be someone like Prince William, maybe. It'll be someone like that who'll come forward with the magic wand, and they'll end all debt, just wipe out all debt. They'll end the commerce, everything as we know it will be ended. And they will bring peace for everyone. But all those who are stupid are going to rise up and go, wow, fantastic. But they won't realize the catch. They won't see the trap, the real trap of that. Because now you'll be bonded forever if you accept it. Now, whether it's a mark of the beast as a microchip, whether it's the name register, it doesn't matter what it's used. But they need something to identify the vessel that you are, that has a relationship within the fiction of the one world government. They cannot form a relationship with something that does not have anything that exists in their fictional world, which is where I am. Because I don't have a name that I use in commerce. I don't perform in commerce. Fiona does. And we have our own challenges within that and how we've got it to this point. Another story, another subject, maybe months to come, another video or whatever. But all I'm trying to get at is that, to get back to Sarah, is that you have to know who you really are. And you can only do that through the good heart and all its virtues. Forget the fictions of the words. You've got to be it and start living it, because that is what you're drawing in to the domain of your dream. When you have others doing it, if you've got kids doing this, you have all that energy and that empowerment going into the dream. And when you start getting other brothers and sisters doing it, and they're all living for that dream, now we're getting back to being the village or villages that we were pre-invasion long ago, because that's where the remedy is. The remedy is only found before we fell into fiction. We fell into the movies and got trapped on the islands and all that. We can't lead anybody to that. We can't lead anyone to this. No one can be led to it. I can't lead anyone to this. I don't want to be leading anyone to it. I want people to be fully responsible for their life, to become co-creators. So we stand side by side as brothers and sisters, living life. We work together to fix the lands. We bring paradise back, live amongst the paradise. And that's what we're doing with this. We're starting with this almost 27 acres here. We're going to build billabongs. We're going to have water moving all the way around the property. We're going to connect them through the key line systems. So wherever you are on this land, you can hear the sound of water. We're going to then have green fields, and we're going to build botanical gardens. We're going to build orchards. We're going to put swales, if we have to use swale methods or some other method, for the food forests, animal habitats, feathered fen environments, places for the horses to be able to run. We'll create things like round yards and stable, not to imprison, but to nurture the wonderful beauty of horses. You see, so and then we can have storage areas, underground things to store food and all these things. That's what we're doing. Now, if they want to drop a nuclear warhead over the top of us, I can't do anything about that. Maybe if we get our strengths, our senses strong enough, we can dissolve that airplane and that bomb before it even takes off. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
We are that powerful, but we are not allowing ourselves to be picked up by all this. Another thing I want to say, there's another thing that's really important for Sarah to pick up on. To me, there are three types of people. There's only three types of people in this analogy. The first type of people are the invaders, the dominators. They're the ones who decided they're going to come into the world of people they don't know and conquer. Now, that intention still lives today amongst us as people want to come into your head and dominate your headspace, dominate your life and control you. And they come as authorities and they come as representatives and agents and all that. That's the first type of people. Then you've got the second type of people who are nearly the majority. And they are all the people who, I know, I'll bring them up last. There's another type of people, the third one. There's a few of us, the ones who stand up to it and push it back and say, no, you're not coming into this domain. This is not your life. I'm looking after our domain. And you push them back. And otherwise, we would have killed them. You've got to fight them. The third type of people is the majority of all the people. Now, just imagine this. You see a UFO coming across the water, an unidentified floating object, a British imperial ship or Spanish or Portuguese or Dutch. It's a UFO coming across the floating waters. And the man on the land's going,
what the heck is this?
What is this? What place does it belong? Because it doesn't exist. It's a fiction. And then the men come off with their big pointy hats.
Oh, yeah.
And they come on the land on their rowboats, and they're talking in Latin or Hebrew or Greek. And I'm just going to make this up, this part. And say, good day, I'm Admiral Bligh. I'm from the British Empire. We have the Westminster system, and we want to set up Medicare, and we want to know how we can make that work for you people so you can all have Medicare or Centrelink. I'm just making this up, right? But every sound coming from them is Martian talk, gobbledygook. It's just going right over the heads of the man on the land, right over the heads. How much effort has to be put in to traumatize that village, to get them to want to accept the education, to learn the constructs and concepts so they can comprehend what government means, what Medicare means, what money means.
Is that why they call it a motion picture? Because there's no there's no real emotion involved.
E-motion. E is ecclesiastical. E means ecclesiastical. It represents the high priesthoods of the occults who carry the intention into your life to cause you to set into motion the information that they brought into your headspace, into your life, even if it's overt slavery and you're going to get belted or whipped or have you'll be killed, and witness someone amongst your tribe being killed if you don't perform that emotion. Now, that's what ego is, because the ego is manufactured from all the scripts that came from outside of it through the occults to fashion a fake personality, a fake character trait, a fake behavior, and everything to do with alphabet languages and tongues, including their secret tongues or even hieroglyphics and all that come into play here. Because the emotion or the ego is someone else's intention to invade you, to control you, and get you to do what they want you to do. Now, in the old days, the victims who were conquered, the tribes that went against tribes and all the battles that happened amongst them, eventually we come to what they call a Pax Romanus, which is where we're all in today, where we have this fake peace treaty, but the people in power are still in power. Right, so back in the old days, you still had the centurions, the Roman Empire, or the Greeks, or whatever you want to call it, controlling and dominating an overt slavery system. Now, there could be a lot of good things amongst all that too. It wasn't always savagery that made people survive the being conquered and being the generations of slaves underneath Egypt or Rome, whatever. But the thing that's really important here is that this method is controlling other people's lives. So back then, people did not want to be slaves because you could see your oppressors in plain sight in overt slavery. You could see the centurions, the soldiers, and all that. You're around them.
Yeah.
And you could see the whipping and the slashing and all that going on, whatever. And eventually, the slaves rise up because they don't want to live like this. They want their freedom. And so there's wars, and losses on all sides. Now, the occultists reached the point where they go, well, we can't keep, because they're losing people themselves. And they have their own loved ones. They're just like us. They got their own loved ones. They got their own family, have their own interests. That's what don't forget. They're just men and women. And they have their own social needs as well. They could be really fucked up, but that doesn't matter. There are a lot of these things play out in their networks because they're all coming from children and parents and all that. They all have it. So they came up with this covert system. And that's why I said the Old Testament is overt and the New Testament is covert. That's just me. I make all that up. I can't prove it. It's just what I think. So now they're still getting in your head. They're educating us, brainwashing us, giving us mythologies, giving us astrology and all the esoterics. They're giving us all kinds of things so we can be manipulated into still doing the emotion or the ego, because we are now carrying the design of slavery through the fake personality we have become in the system of their power and control over us on that island with the sirens. Because these sirens come from the occultists who are behind all of this at the highest levels of this hierarchical system. So the emotion is controlled by programs, scripts. So if you want a robot to carry out an outcome for you the way you want it, you've got to build that robot. You've got to capture the kids from so young and put them through the robot programming to rebuild them. You've got to bring them within the world of fiction to practice all the robot skills. So it means all the thinking that's put into place, which only belongs to the robot program. It doesn't belong to the real life who we are. Because that's in life itself through the senses. And then you've got to turn the robot on after you build it and give it the artificial intelligence. You've got to turn it on so the robot begins to,
That's the scary part.
And that artificial intelligence started generations back, way back. It didn't start now with the technology. That is just an extenuation of the artificial intelligence, because the artificial intelligence are just the dreams, the intentions of the occultists that come into your headspace to control you and rule you, and come up with every way to distract the fact that you are a slave, give you the fake idea that you have options and you have freedom, which are really just choices provided. That's when you go to the supermarket, you don't have freedom. You've created nothing that's in the supermarket. It's all been provided to you by others. All you have are choices, and choice is not freedom. And the whole of system life are full of choices. So while you are a spoon-fed slave, you are carrying out the programming. Even while we're going through this now, waking up, thinking we're waking up, you still have not broken away unless you're going to live the real dream of life and walk away from the synthetic programming. And remember, the programming in here is designed to keep you thinking that you're not strong enough, that you are weak,
Yeah.
that you got to think for self, you got to survive for self, and you're busy for self. How? Oh, I have number 7, Hijack Street, slave land. You got an address, the PO box, and the mail comes there. But you're living in the suburb of slavery, of slave land, amongst numbers, where everyone's isolated in their numbers, in their apartments. You're slaves. And you can't see it. Because if you want to break away from all of this, you've got to walk away from the post office. You've got to walk away from their land title deeds. You've got to work away from all their surveying and all the other shit. Because what did these people do when they first arrived on these lands to invade the tribes? What do you think they did? They brought their missionaries in. They brought their missionary to bring Jesus and God or Allah or whatever. But they also brought in their botanists and their surveyors, their military, etc. It just goes on. And what do you think they've been doing? They've been zoning and mapping and cutting, and they're teaching you to fall into the matrix of this programming so that all the time you are thinking for I, Arthur, in the fiction. Where does Arthur live? Oh, he's got an address there at 7 Hijack, place in Slaveville. And he's got to make money. I'm going to have a letter come in the mail with electricity bill. I'm going to have a tax office come into the mail that I've got to meet. I've got gas, mobile phone. I've got internet. I've got council rates. That's what number 7 Hijack Street is in Slaveville. So they've got to make you think, oh, God, I can go to the footy. I've got choices. I can go and champion the team that I love, give my energy there. So that takes out a lot of the energy out of me so you don't have the real fight because you've been depleted of all of that. Oh, you got fashion. You're caught up in fashion. Oh, you've got free sex, pornography. You've got so many choices to destroy your power, your center of power, the real life, so that you are always...
Yeah, sucking the thumb.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I need water.
Like a baby.
I need shelter. I need a family.
Yeah.
Because you give your children away to them. You gave them an address as well. And then you collect Centrelink payments and government handouts. And you wonder why these people are coming at you all the time, because you keep giving your power away to them. You invite them into your life. I could go on and on about all this stuff, but I think anyone's got any decent brain left would make sense of what I'm talking about here.
I just want to maybe finish with one point. I want you to explain me something, because you were talking about compassion, love, and all that stuff, that we don't need words to feel it, and we don't need to save others. I'm not here to save the world. I'm here to save my own self from that nonsense in my head. I get it. But how do I deal now with having compassion for those that are asleep? I know I can't wake them up because my light will be too bright. They will go back to sleep. So how do you just shine like the sunshine and you hope they pick up the light?
There's no one way, Johnny. There's no one way, one rule. You are unique. You can work with the inspiration of that within a dream that you're working with and apply it. With the dream that this man's doing, I dreamt for the land. We carry no debt, and I'm dreaming to build everything that I do here for those to come who want to live this lifestyle, who want to come and become part of the labor force of creating it, that they can unplug from the system too. So I'm creating everything for others to come, because that's how I'm dreaming it. But those who are going to come will be weaned out, because those who come with the island strong in them, they'll be burnt off. I won't let that come onto this land to play it out, because I don't have time to deal with that stuff, because it means I'll be so caught up with them that it's taken up all my focus on the bigger stuff, which is far more important. So I'm going to create what's happening on this land for this life, of this village life, for those who want to carry that full responsibility and not be a drain on, or an anchor to someone else around them, that they can manage. And whatever shit comes up for all of us in that way, we can privately sort it out, or we can talk amongst each other, but we don't use it to become something that stops us from the labor of creating the life where all the infrastructure of the village is required, so we can completely and fully unplug from it. That's all I can do. That's the best I've got at this point. But as we grow and change, and the emotions more recede, and more we're getting filled by the good heart and all its virtues, naturally, we will have different outlooks. We will sense things in ways we never even thought possible. So until we are there in that, we don't know what we're going to become. But I'm not doubting any of that, because I live like I breathe. I don't worry about my next breath. It's already taken care of for me.
Yeah.
The next sunshine, I don't have to worry. And all of life is like that. So I've learned that I live in the here and now and cherish it and do what I can to change the ties I have to the system that needs us and others to go into life and destroy it, to provide us the fiction that we need, that we have to go to the shops to buy, to drive the journey in the cars, to run the push bikes and all these things that we need, metal and plastic, electronics and community, all the other stuff. And all of this is, we don't want that. So a real community, the one we're talking about and where we're heading, is to create an example where we create so much abundance that we can share all that free food with the wider community, whoever needs it, for free. Because we're all together living the lifestyle that allows us the freedom to create that abundance. So we can then feed the people who are suffering. Some of these people who are suffering may take an interest in discovering how we live. And they may want to experience it with their own eyes and come to see that they don't want to live like that anymore. They want to change. So we will have, like the great man had the 12 disciples and they all went out and spread the word. We will also be these people. We will spread the word of the great man as well, to show them we can live by abundance and magnificence, working with the virtues of the good heart by action, doing. We don't listen to anyone getting in heads, putting doubt, manipulating us, and trying to disturb the peace, break the peace. Now, that example, see, one of the goals that Fiona and I have is to attract the fictional dollars to buy a building in town, in Kempsey, for food distribution for free, but also then provide what is required for people to learn how they're going to be responsible for their life, how we can help them to undo being spoon-fed, which then takes away the biggest strain of all these mentalities becoming a threat on us. So if we create that kind of lifestyle, their children can come and play with our children. Our children can go and play with their children. There's no us and them. It's just life.
So the remedy is amplifying by example.
Exactly. So you've got to create the necessities of food, water, shelter on land that can't be taken from you. And then we are the custodians of that. And there is no court in the world that can do anything about it, except if they want to send their armies in to destroy it. And I know they've got their 1 million Chinese army, and they'll send them as foreigners into another country like Australia. I know all these different, I could go on and on about all these things. I know how they're doing this, and how a bank manager is no longer a local. The police are mostly not local. They've been brought in, brought out, generally speaking, because everyone's become strangers. There's no real close community connections anymore. In the old days of the police, Joe's little son, 10-year-old Harry, got caught breaking, entering into something. He did something stupid, right? But the policeman grabs him. He knows who Harry, he knows the family, and he'll drag him back to the dad.
Yeah.
And tells the dad what happened. And guess what the dad's going to do to little Harry when the policeman's gone? He's not going to put him in jail.
No.
And the last thing little Harry wants to or whatever he's going to deal with is the father absolutely giving him an absolute boot up the ass, probably painful that wherever he sits for the next 3 months, he'll know never to think about wanting to go and disturb Auntie Jill and stealing something like that. Because that's what a good community does. And I'm not saying that we should practice violence, but we need to draw the line where harm has been done to others is unacceptable. And the consequences have to be very strong. Otherwise, we won't respect. So if we can provide the kind of respect amongst each other now, we won't produce children that will want to do that. They won't be seduced by it because our power is stronger. We have that power to create the ambience of the atmosphere of the good heart amongst us if we hold it and we're not entertaining any of those black spots coming out of the sun of our soul. If we carry doubt, uncertainty, fear, distrust, we play that out, you're going to destroy everything that we are part of. In spite of all the good intentions, we'll destroy it.
And even relationship you're gonna have during this lifetime, you're gonna destroy it.
You'll destroy everything.
You're gonna destroy everything.
Because we're attracting it. We attract it. The intellect, the mind, is the house of the island. It's where all the sirens are operating. And if you get so caught up in the intellect, and this again is Semiramis, that's that amazing, massive woman on a statue at New York Harbor with the big crowns around the head. It's got scrolls in one hand, and it's got the light and the torch in the other hand, whatever it's doing. It's showing you the symbolism. So you've got to help each other. We've got to nurture women, not to be in their head, not get caught up worrying about children in that way. You know, the old playgrounds we used to grow up in as young kids, we had massive slides. Some of us would come down, would break our arm, would fall off them, or we got one big swings, you know, and we had to learn how to manage our bodies, how to learn how to handle situations and things, you know, all kinds of things. It made us better people. But now you go to a playground with kids, everything's got soft, rubbish, synthetic stuff, tiny little swings you go down. Yeah, everything's so sanitized, like it's almost like you might as well just throw tissues around the place and sit down, don't disturb the tissues. You know,
if you find any kids in playground.
You know,
if you find any, because they're not much these
in
days.
The system, we'd run around motorbikes and be maniacs, and you know, out in the you know, okay, sure, there's a lot of those things we won't do anymore, but we were wild, but it was naturally a good thing because that's how we developed our skill sets. That's how we used our brain. That's how we worked out our troubleshooting and how to work things out. And we used to do the most extraordinary. I mean, you still see examples now where someone on a skateboard can do the most incredible things, or someone's on a pushback can do incredible things, or someone can dive. We all have these abilities.
When I was a kid, -20, playing hockey outside all day, didn't care. We were outside. But today, go around finding people. We're all stuck up inside. So that disconnection happen also when you're disconnected from nature, when you don't entertain yourself with nature no more. And anyway, Arthur, we're gonna have to let that one go there.
But that's the remedy, mate. Look. Can you handle the heart space?
That's it.
Can you hold it, and be smart enough to not let anything else come into your dreaming that belongs to doubt and uncertainty and all that other. So you don't bring any of that shit in, because if you allow that to come in, you're going to attract it. You're going to call out to it to come into the dream of your life and play out with your kids, play out with your partner. You can even destroy your partner doing this.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got it. It shows you how big the responsibility we each carry. And that's the remedy. It really is the remedy, being responsible.
Yep. Full responsibility.
Don't give it up.
We're out.
Stop being spoon-fed.
That's it. Stop being spoon-fed. Large up everyone in the chat. Sarah Narair Baharian. I got it. Prevention is necessarily the proper approach to dealing with relationship. Interesting. Anyway,
just be responsible.
Yeah, it was a great pleasure to have you on.
Just hang on. One more quick thing. Arthur's just got. If we try to interfere in trying to, like, we start doubting, we start controlling outcomes. We start manipulating to meet what we doubt.
Yeah, unfavorable outcome.
And that's how we've got. So We don't want to be playing any of this out with each other. We want to have true peace and calm amongst each other,
You want
because they become the
favorable
best.
outcome.
They become the best friendships, and those friendships are the best kinds of marriages. When you're a real friend,
Yeah. That's what I
none of
always
this
tell
other.
him.
I need you. I love you, darling, because you don't have that love, and you need someone else to give it to you.
I need a good friend with my wife. Yeah, I always tell her that. Well, you're everything to me, friend, wife, partner. You're
Someone,
everything, and
someone should come along and add to already what you have. Never take it away from you. So when you're in a real situation with Remedy, everyone is adding to expanding what already is happening for everyone. Nobody's there to take anything away from anybody on any level about anything. So we're all adding to the magnificent, adding to the joy, adding to the happiness, adding to I don't want to use prosperity, that's money, but adding to abundance.
and
You know,
when you have a good relationship also with a woman or a man, you have that one voice of divine that you need, that only one voice to tell you you're on the right path.
yeah,
And
because they're nurturers.
yeah,
Women are nurturers,
exact.
and we're
Yeah,
supposed to be nurturers. But if women lose their way in being nurturers, now they are Semiramis. Now they are the Statue of Liberty. Now
yeah,
they're in the constructs and concept, and they get at us little boys and girls from so young, believing they're doing the right thing.
yeah.
But they're coming from the doubt and the uncertainty and the confusion, because they think, I've got to do this because I've got to be seen as a good woman, that I'm a good parent, that I'm doing the right thing. And underneath it is all this doubt lingering, all this mesmerizing, discombobulating fear and complacency. And I'm just we've got to get off that statue. We've got to get off that island. We've got to be Ulysses and get back to the heart space and start trusting it. Start really trusting and listen to your instincts, not the fear. Listen if something needs to be intervened because someone could possibly step the line and hurt themselves really bad or kill themselves, not out of fear. You've got to know which is which. You've got to sense that. And it comes from the heart. And when we do that, we're always in peace and calm while we're doing it. Now, I'm still learning this.
But
I'm still practicing.
this is like also like a man or a woman walking in forest and being able to notice traps, bear traps, traps on the ground. People set traps in forest to catch animals and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're good in nature, you will be able to sense those traps. But that's the same thing with the movie. If you're completely desensitized, you will not sense their trap. You will fall in it. So wake up. That's the remedy is wake up. Wake the baby.
Village life,
Yeah,
local village life,
village
food,
people.
land, water, shelter as a
That's
constant.
it. That's it. Large up, everyone. We're out. See ya. It was the last one with Arthur for a while. Maybe you'll see him back in the winter, and my winter, his summer. But that is a bit opposite in every season for us. But anyway, we'll just get together eventually again, I'm pretty sure. Uh, Arthur still has a lot in his tank. I can sense it. I'm not letting him go. I told him, I said, you're not going away. You're on earth with us. You will share your wisdom again,
Yeah, man,
definitely. And I'll bring you back on definitely
you're
eventually.
gonna bring me back, man. I don't know
Yeah,
how I
I'll
can ever
bring you
bring you
back.
back yet. I have been so far in the fiction for so long. Oh,
Yeah. No, I'm back on the TruMon show. That's what I was talking about. But much love, everyone. It's all love. It's always been love. That's all I'm talking about is love. That's all I can sense. Boom.
welcome to anyone who wants to be part of this stream of life.
That's it. We're out. See ya. And stream.